husband's bank account, was that a joint bank account or his own bank account?
It was under his, but
So it was his name?
Yes.
So it was his bank account?
It was.
Did you also have a joint bank account?
We just shared that one. I wasn't working, and I'm not working. He is sole provider of our family.
So the bank account was in his name solely?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know the defendant?
We met in 2020. We worked together at Target, and that's my husband and I, and also the defendant.
So you worked there?
Yes.
Did you become social friends?
Yes.
And at some point, Mr. Ivan says that your husband needed money, that he was in some sort of difficulty with rent money.
Okay.
That's what Mr. Ivan says. In what month, Mr. Ivan, do you claim that you loaned money to Mr. Friend?
Mr. Whalen is his name.
Whalen.
Yeah. Michael and I are best friends from the day that we met, by the way. Just hit it off right away. So this gentleman would come to me and vice versa.
Just tell me.
The money we're talking about, August 17th, 2022.
And was the conversation about the money in your house?
Yes.
In your house?
Yes.
I'd like you to tell me what that conversation was.
Absolutely. Michael showed up at my door on August 17th. He needed money, and he needed away from the plaintiff.
Just a second.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell me what he needed. Tell me what he said to you.
His rent is very far behind, and he would like to borrow $1,500.
Did you ask him why?
Of course.
And what did he say?
Rent.
No. Why his rent was so far behind?
Oh, not exactly. He stayed with me for the next 2 days, so we had a lot of conversation about it.
Okay. So when he came on August 17th, he did not stay home with his wife and the new baby. He stayed with you for how many days?
For 2 that week.
You and your husband been having a difficult time?
We were the last couple weeks before his ending.
And he did, in fact, stay out. Did you know where he was staying?
No, I did not.
Okay, but you knew he was out.
Yes, I had asked him to leave.
Okay. Now, his rent in his house where his wife and his baby was overdue.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he needed $1,500 according to you, so what did you do?
I gave him the $1,500.
Mrs. Friend, in June, July, August, was your husband working?
Yes.
Same job?
He was working with Burlington, so yes.
Did your husband have any problems that you know of with either drugs or gambling?
I didn't know at the time.
But do you know now? Yes. What kind of problems did he have?
He was struggling with use of cocaine.
Okay. So that would account for his need for money and also for problems. Okay. Your husband was a young man. Did he have any life insurance?
He did, yes.
He did. How much?
It was, oh my goodness, it was $200,000.
Did the company pay on his life insurance? No, because he committed suicide?
Oh, it wasn't that. It was he had lapsed his payment. So I think his last payment was, I believe, in May, and he did not pay it. So because of that, they did not.
It lapsed?
Yeah.
It might not have been effective anyway since he took his own life. Okay, so you lent him $1,500. And how did you repay yourself and when?
Your Honor, I'd like to point out that she was very well aware of the fact that he was using cocaine for the better part of the year.
Just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Ivan, not necessary.
Okay. I repeat myself because that was our agreement. Michael was at my house a week later also. He logged onto my phone because he no longer had any belongings. He no longer had a physical wallet or a phone in his possession. He lost them. Miss Friend had his wallet, but I can show you that later. For now, he's asking me if he can put his memorized information on my digital wallet, which I can show you now if you'd like.
Yes.
It's still on my phone to this day.
His information?
Correct.
Okay.
With the agreement...
Just a second. I could understand you taking back the $1,500 because you say that was his agreement with you, as was sort of buttressed by the fact that he put his banking information on the card. But why would you transfer any other money other than the $1,500 out of his account?
Courtney Friend claims her former friend, Joseph T. Ivan Jr., wrongfully took money from her deceased husband's bank account.
I want you to bring that up.
Yeah.
And Sarah, you're going to take a look at that?
It's the top card, sir. The one that says Chime. That's my digital wallet, my personal digital wallet.
So it's the same as when you put something in your Apple Wallet and you can pay using, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to describe this to you. If you log in to check your bank balance, you can save the card to your phone, so it makes it easier to pay with your phone. So it looks as if Mr. Friend logged in to the defendant's phone with his credentials and information.
So that
There's also latest transactions. The very last transaction was from 10/1/22.
And how much was that for?
$80 at a market. Then there's some gas stations.
That's for October. Prior to that.
There's a list of just latest transactions.
That's all those are the total transactions.
Yeah.
That you made?
Well,
just a second.
There's
an $80 transaction, according to Sarah, in October.
Yes, ma'am. So the way
Was that your transaction?
It was.
Okay.
I have.
Well, just
I'm sure they'll match with whatever.
$236 worth of charges. I charged $236 worth of charges.
From my husband's passing till.
Hold on. Hold.
got it closed.
Well, I have $80 in October, but in transfer to, who is that?
That is
$1,400.
That is the deceased.
Who transferred that?
I transferred it. That is a GoFundMe account. And we'll get to this. The check that came through after he passed away hit my phone because he loaded his card onto my phone. The agreement was that I pay myself back when he was still alive with the funds that are on that phone.
Just a second.
The remaining I sent to a GoFundMe account.
Why did you do that? Just a second. I can almost understand Mr. Ivan.
Yeah.
Because what your position is, and I actually believe that it's accurate that your friend came to you.
100%.
That your friend came to you in need of money, that he and his wife were having difficulty, that he had an addiction problem, that he probably spent the rent money on his addiction problem. All of that sort of makes sense. And even though resorting to self-help after he passed, I would frown on. I would say this is a debt that's owed by his estate. And I could understand you, who had access to his account, taking back the $1,500 because you say that was his agreement with you, as was sort of buttressed by the fact that he put his banking information, and it's his sole banking information, on the card. But why would you transfer any other money other than the $1,500 out of his account?
Into his family's name, Your Honor, and I can show you why. I have transcripts with everyone that knows us. I could have a dozen people here. I'm sorry, I could have a dozen people here with me to make this claim, but this is a very sensitive situation for a lot of people involved. So I'm going to fight this fight on my own without them here.
Just a second.
And they will all tell you that this is the last person on earth that should have that money.
Just a second. This is not about you making a judgment or about 30 other people making
That's what Michael asked me
just
to
a
do.
second. Sir, unless you have a writing from the deceased that's authenticated in the same process as would authenticate a will, you have no right to make that judgment as to whether or not his wife and or child, I assume he died without a will, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So under the laws of practically every state, if you die intestate, which means you die without a will, there's a certain order of people who inherit your money. Your spouse, your children, it goes sort of in order. There's a pecking order. You have no right to amend that. You actually don't even have a right to repay yourself after he's dead. You have no right to do that. But I can actually understand your sense that unless you paid yourself, you weren't going to get your money back. I can understand that. But whatever your intentions were, sir, you have no right to do anything else with the money in that bank account.
May I?
Am I making myself clear? I hope so. Is that clear? Yeah.
Brought me right back to wills, trusts, and estates. So.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Your Honor, Michael and I had an agreement, okay? So whether or not he...
Sure, just a second. you and Michael had an agreement that you made a loan to him in the amount of $1,500, and in order to secure your repayment, I read your answer, sir.
Yeah.
He gave you his account number, and according to you, he said, when I get paid, you can take the money back that you loaned to me. That's $1,500.
May I continue? I've only used $236. That's all that I've used. $236, and I can show you the math here on this spreadsheet, but let's start with $1,500. $845 he paid back to me on August 24th, a week later.
Oh, okay, hold on a second. So $1,500.
That's right.
And he paid you back what?
$845 on August 24th.
Good for him.
Right.
Did he pay you back by Michael? Just listen to me. Don't play. Did he pay you back by coming to your house and giving you the money? Or
Digitally.
Did he, shh. He paid you back digitally.
That's right.
May I see that, please, Kevin?
Using my phone and his account.
Shh. So now he owes you $655.
That's right.
Okay. Kevin, I'd like you to show this to the plaintiff. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, I'd like to show this to the plaintiff. So Mr. Ivan acknowledges that your husband, Miss Friend, pay
Yes,
attention,
yes.
that your husband paid him back more than half of what he had borrowed. Now, then you took back, Mr. Ivan, from the account, how much money?
$236.
No. That's not true.
Shh,
We can go line by line.
shh.
That's a debit, not a credit.
He sent the $1,400 from
$100
Michael's
to the
account.
go.
The
Oh,
leftover.
yo, just a second. You can't do that, sir.
I have a baby.
Listen to me. You were there. You provided a shelter for Michael
To get away
when
from
he
her.
was.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Courtney Friend has accused her former friend, Joseph T. Ivan Jr., of stealing money from her deceased husband's bank account.
Which of these charges? There's an $80 charge, a $60. Are those your charges?
Yes.
Okay, hold on.
140.
Just a second. 145,
Yes.
a 7735.
Yes. And that's it. Those four.
What about Cash App?
That's the digital transaction that you just had.
Oh, an 845. Got it.
I'm still owed $392. if you're doing that.
Okay. Now, how much money do you allege, and I'm going to give this to you or give you, you must have this. How much money do you allege that he took out of the account?
I'm asking for $2,700.
I don't care what you're asking for. That's irrelevant to me what you're asking for.
Okay.
How much money do you allege he took out of the account?
I think he took way more than what he's saying.
Oh, well, I don't care what you think. Miss
Well,
Friend.
it's proof
I don't,
right there.
I don't. Other than the $1,400, which he says he transferred to the GoFundMe page, did you receive for your daughter any part of this $1,400 that came from a GoFundMe page?
I have not, no.
Okay. Just a second.
Okay.
But the GoFundMe page was subsequent to your husband's death. Is that right?
Yeah.
Who started the GoFundMe page?
It was my husband's.
So this money did not belong to your husband. This money was not money from your husband. This money was started by somebody else, not the defendant, and somehow ended up in your husband's bank account. Am I getting that right?
No.
Well, what's this 40? How did it end
I
up?
transferred it from. That's Michael's bank account ledger that's attached to my digital wallet.
I understand.
And it's going to the GoFundMe.
Why?
A GoFundMe is a special account that's set up in a tragic, or well, not necessarily.
I know exactly what it is,
Okay.
but what I'm not following is why would it not be in his...
It is. He's saying that is a to, not a receiving.
That's a debit, not a
$1,400,
credit.
He sent the $1,400 from
$100
Michael's
to the
account. The
Oh,
leftover.
yo, just a second.
$1,400.
Oh, you can't do that. Sorry, sir. You can't do that. So you took out money that didn't belong to you because at best case scenario, You're still owed $400.
$392.
Yeah, okay, $400. You were still owed $400, and you withdrew $1,400 of Michael's money and sent it to the GoFundMe page.
Yeah, because of the fact that the last person on earth that Michael would want to have that money is this person right
That's not your judgment to make, sir.
That's fine.
That's just a second. That's not, listen to me. I tried to explain to you
Okay.
what the laws of intestacy are in this country. If you die without a will, there are certain people who get your money, whether the deceased hates them, wasn't talking to them, it doesn't make any difference unless he and his wife are separated by a lawful separation order by the court. She and his daughter are entitled to this money, and it's not up to his best friend or his best friend's friends or other people to say he was angry with her, she threw him out. Whatever the reason that you're saying Michael would want the last person to receive any money from this GoFundMe page is the plaintiff, that's not your decision to make. You took back some of your own money. He paid you back some. You may get skunked for $400.
I don't want it.
Just a second. You may get skunked for $400. But if you sent this money to a GoFundMe page and that was $1,400
For the family's name, Your Honor.
you can't do that.
That's fine. I did
You
it because
can't
Michael would not
do
want her
that.
to have it, so I gave it to his family.
Okay. Well, you can't do that, sir.
I have a baby.
I'm not faulting you emotionally, sir.
Yeah.
Listen to me. You were there. You provided a shelter for Michael
To get away
when
from
he
her.
was.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'll stop. That's a fact. It's just the truth.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
It doesn't matter. The woman's a fraud. She's a fraud. That money should not be going to her. She's the last person on earth that this gentleman wanted to have that money.
I'm happy. I'm happy that she sided with me, listened to me, and
Oh, that's all she cares about is money. That's what this is all about.
knew that that was not right, because it's not. I mean, what kind of person would
Courtney's out for money. Always was in the relationship.
take money from a new mom, someone who's grieving? It's been such a mess, and I feel good about this.
Because I'm the only one who would do the right thing with it, and he knew that.
He was very defensive. He was very defensive and very hateful.
I'm the great guy. He'd want me to fight the good fight. All good.
He shouldn't have took anything from me. I've already lost so much.
Happy it's over.
I've lost my best friend, my husband, the love of my life, and the father of our new child. It's not okay. He caught me in a very vulnerable state.
That case, for as tragic as it was, and I really felt for the plaintiff, brought me right back to wills, trust, and estates, and the basic, 3 rules: age of majority, of sound mind, and a writing. And it's just really unfortunate that the plaintiff's husband didn't have one.
If I were to venture a guess, I would say that most people, when they're under 40, don't have a will.
Yeah.
He was a new father, baby.
Makes it all that much more important.
Yeah, it does. But he was a new father with a cocaine addiction.
Yeah. Tough to try and guess the mental state of someone going through that, but I also agreed with you that you can't fault the defendant for his he knew how his friend felt, and he was trying to carry out those wishes, but there is the law and there are rules,
Right.
and you can't take it upon yourself to redistribute your friend's money.
Or
So-
the GoFundMe money. Yeah.
All good intention,
Same.
but you got to follow the rules.
Jessica Crane for personal items and money from a GoFundMe fundraiser.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2119, Crane versus Crane.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Miss Crane, this is a very sad case. This is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
And I don't know how many children that you have, but I know that you had a son who was in medical school, who was, how old, 25 years old?
30.
30. Sounds as if he was a popular young man. He was in an outing with friends, and sadly, he drowned.
Yes, he did. Saving
And that
2
happened,
women.
just a second, and that
sorry.
happened when?
That happened July 29th of this year.
This is what the case is about. His friends, in his memory, started a GoFundMe page.
Correct.
And there is approximately $40,000 in that GoFundMe page.
There was, yes.
I said approximately.
Yes.
There was. And your daughter is, for want of a better word, in charge of that Facebook page GoFundMe proceeds.
Correct.
And it is your claim that as the next of kin, because he died without a will, you are entitled to some or all of that Facebook page.
It doesn't even matter about the GoFundMe funds. I mean, that would be nice in a perfect world, but my daughter took everything. From the day my son passed, when they found his body at the river, the coroner gave her the keys to his truck, and she went to his apartment and emptied it. So I didn't get my chance to be Josh's mom for the last time. I didn't get to empty his apartment.
I can't cure that, madam.
No.
I can't cure that.
No.
And you can't put any sort of a value on anything that your daughter might have taken from that apartment because you don't know what was there.
Correct.
So I can't help you with that. In a perfect world, maybe she would have gone with you to the apartment, but she didn't.
Correct.
Based upon what I read, you were not there during the search for your son or the discovery of his body. Is that correct?
I was at home.
Okay. And your daughter was there?
Yes, she was.
And I assume that you were close to your brother?
Absolutely close to my brother.
Just curious, what prevented you? You were notified that your son was missing. What prevented you from going there?
My daughter was at the house the day Josh went missing, and we had my car torn apart. She left after they called her, and I definitely would have hitched a ride, but I didn't have a vehicle.
Your
to get
Honor, I
home.
got.
Just a second. Did you say she was at your house?
Yes, she was.
Well, then why didn't you go with her?
They didn't call till after she had left, apparently, and rather than come back and get me,
You mean she left to go someplace else?
she left to go home. Yeah, we were working on my car. She left to go home, and she got a call from Search and Rescue. I hadn't been answering my
Just a s-
phone.
Oh, well, that's a different story. You hadn't been answering your phone. It wasn't as if nobody called you.
No, she didn't. She didn't call.
It wasn't as if nobody called you. Did somebody call you?
Right, from Search and Rescue. Yes, yes.
Somebody called you.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Crane, this is your problem. If your son passed away without a will, and I'm sure that somebody else, maybe a professional has told you that, a legal professional has told you that, if your son passed away without a will, depending upon the laws in your jurisdiction, you, as his parent, might be construed as next of kin, and any property that he owned at the time of his death would transfer to you.
Right, correct, yes.
He didn't own the GoFundMe page at the time he died.
No, he did not.
So you don't get it.
Okay,
Any part of it.
okay.
Your Honor,
The
she already
people-
received funds from the GoFundMe as well.
Just a sec. The people that set up the GoFundMe page, I assume, were classmates of your brother's?
Yes, they were his other fourth-year medical students that had reached out to me and asked if they could.
Don't tell me what they asked you. They set up a GoFundMe page. Do you have the paperwork for the GoFundMe page? I'd
Yeah.
like to see it. Okay, so they raised $39,287.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything that is in writing that makes you either the beneficiary of?
The organizer of
Would
the.
you do me a favor? Look it up.
Underneath the photo.
It does say that I am the beneficiary listed on there.
Thank you. You're Jessica.
I am.
Okay. Is organizing this fundraiser on behalf of Jessica Crane. That's her.
That has changed. Initially, it was for Joshua Crane, and with the legal
Just
ramifications.
show me.
It's never been for.
Show me. Just a second. Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
It wouldn't make any difference, but I'm willing to look at something that originally it was on behalf of
Right.
somebody else.
The reason I'm here today is not because of the GoFundMe.
Your Honor, that's exactly why she's
Just-
here. It's the
just a
money.
sec-
It's
Shh.
always been about the money.
All right, how are you going to pay the note on a $14,000 truck?
I plan on returning to work. This incident has taken my job, believe it or not.
Actually, I don't believe it.
Your Honor, I work
Just
3
shh.
jobs.
Just a second. Actually, I don't believe it.
And later today,
What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you, what kind of narcotics were found in your car?
Carol Crane claims her daughter, Jessica Crane, is wrongfully keeping her son's property and money from his GoFundMe fundraiser.
This is your complaint. I'm suing the defendant, Jessica Crane, in the amount of $10,000 for my portion of my deceased son's GoFundMe account and personal items, including my son's guitars and his vehicle.
Correct.
Okay. Now you're not looking for his GoFundMe account.
I never really was because I never knew the law on GoFundMe. I tried to find out and speak to someone about it and get legal advice, and I could never find anyone.
Well, it's very easy. He didn't own this property while he was alive, so you have no title to it. If they said that they're starting a GoFundMe page in the name of your son to be for the benefit of animal rescue, you wouldn't have any control over that.
No, it was meant for his funeral costs.
Just a second.
Which I also paid
It says,
for,
just
Your
a
Honor.
second, on behalf of Jessica Crane.
Right.
On behalf of Jessica Crane, just for my own curiosity, I'd like to know, your son was buried at some point?
He was cremated.
He was cremated.
And I have the receipts. I paid for his obituary, his cremation.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is, there were no serious funeral costs.
I got everything
nothing
donated on my
substantial.
funeral.
That's not true as
Just
well.
a second. I'm asking you, Mrs. Crane, did you pay anything for your son's funeral?
No.
Okay, that's all. So it's not as if you had any outlay of money for this. You know what I find sort of troublesome? I find troublesome that his friends, because that sometimes happens, it's human nature, you feel so badly about something, you want to do something, and probably the easiest thing to do is to raise money. And the easiest thing for probably these people who are in their 20s and 30s is to start a GoFundMe page. I mean, it just would seem to me if they wanted to do a scholarship for him at the school, if they wanted to do something else, this is for those people out there who are watching, who are GoFundMe people. I've seen some of the more ridiculous ones, you know, and there are good-natured people out there who see these things and will donate $5 and $10. Oh, my goodness, they need funeral costs. Well, in this case, there were no issues, and almost all this money, $40,000, is left. What are you going to do with it?
So there's a couple things that I planned on doing with it. It's why the money has been sitting in account.
I just want the people who donated this money to know what you're going to do with it. It's not for you to buy anything for yourself.
Your Honor.
That would be ridiculous. That's not what was in their minds. So I want to know who I'm dealing with.
Your Honor, after all of Josh's expenses were paid for, which I paid for using that money, I am very close with the dean at UC Davis, who is a good friend of my brother's as well, and they have talked about setting up a scholarship fund for my brother, and I was going to donate a portion of that money back if UC Davis decides to set that up on his behalf. And then I also wanted to set up scholarship funds for my sons, who my brother was very close with.
So what you're telling me is you're going to give a little to UC Davis for a scholarship in his name, and you're going to use some for your two sons for their education.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really not what it was intended to do. I'm just telling you, it was not what it was intended to do.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's how GoFundMes are set up. People can set them up for an intended purpose, and they're used for anything.
And then, well, but I'm just telling the people out there, before you spend money on a GoFundMe page, make sure it's going to go to a place where you want it to go and for the intended purpose you want it, which is to somehow celebrate the life of this young man that was cut short so tragically. And it would seem to me, Miss Crane, you don't have to do anything because they made you the beneficiary of this money. But it would seem to me that a stand-up person would take whatever is left of that and create a scholarship in his name at UC Davis, which is where he went to school. I can't order you to do that, but I'm just telling you, and everybody else out there, make sure if you have a good heart and a good spirit, you know where your money is going. Okay, so you're not entitled to any of the money. Now, did you take your brother's guitars?
I cleared out my brother's entire apartment.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just answer
Yes, Your
answer
Honor.
the question. And how many guitars did you take?
3.
Where are they?
They're at my house.
Now, I don't have to do this. Would you like one of your son's guitars?
Yes, very
Would you
much
like
so.
one of your son's guitars? Do you have any of your son's guitars?
None.
Your Honor, my mom has a long history of substance abuse. She's bought gifts for me in the past, and she's pawned them off. And I would like to keep them in my family, so that's where they stay. So that's why I have possession of them, because I don't want them going to a pawn shop.
I was told I could visit one of my son's guitars at her home.
Do you, just a second, do you play guitar?
No. I just want it because it's my son's, and
Well-
I bought 3 of his guitars for him.
None
so
of these guitars were purchased by her. They're very expensive guitars. My brother purchased
I can't
every one
order
of
her to
these
do
guitars.
anything. I'm just asking her whether she would give you one of the guitars. And she said no. The next thing we have here is a vehicle. Now, tell me about the vehicle.
So Josh didn't have a lot. He was a fourth-year medical student. He has a truck, a Toyota, a 2019 Toyota Tacoma, that he still owes about $14,000 on. I have that here, $13,841.76 on. And at the time, his truck was at the boat launch where they found him. So when I met with the sheriffs, they gave me possession of the keys. They found his keys on his body, and they gave me his keys. So we brought the truck up to where we live in Northern California, took the truck up there, and it's been kept in storage until this is all sorted out. I personally wanted to keep the truck. I have the means to finance the truck in my name. I have the means to make a payment. She does not have the means to make a payment. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a driver's license. She can't provide insurance for it. I mean, she has driving.
That's not particularly relevant. There's $14,000 left on it. Are you employed?
I was until
Just
this
to say,
started.
the answer is either yes or no. Are you employed?
No.
All right, how are you going to pay the note on a $14,000 truck?
I plan on returning to work. This incident has taken my job, believe it or not.
Actually, I don't believe it.
Your Honor, I work
Just
3
shh,
jobs.
Just a second. Actually, I don't believe it.
Okay.
So the answer is, if you can't afford to make the payments on this truck, and the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to be repossessed by the bank. Have you been making payments on the truck?
I have not made a payment.
Who is the finance company?
Credit union.
Where is the truck currently stored? Give me the address.
I don't have an exact address.
And later today,
You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs and passed out in her car and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. That's ridiculous. And I'm not stupid.
Carol Crane claims her daughter, Jessica Crane, is wrongfully keeping her son's property and money from his GoFundMe fundraiser.
I want to see the paperwork on the loan. Okay. Sarah, when we finish with this case, call credit union, advise them who has the truck, let them go repossess the truck. We're finished here. Your case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
I had an addiction problem, and she's just angry. She's angry at me, and I've tried to make amends. I've tried to get this better, and she won't have it. My daughter got away with taking absolutely everything, and she wasn't entitled to it.
I think that if there's any lesson to be taken away, aside from the fact that you're not supposed to fight, when you lose somebody so young and so vital, the one innocent party is the credit union who loaned him the money to buy the truck. She's been hiding the truck now for 5 months, hasn't made a payment on it. The right thing to do is for her to turn that truck into the credit union, because I can't control that, except that I can advise the credit union where she is, who she is, that she has possession of the truck, and they should go and repossess it. Anyway, it's all very sad. Before you donate money to a GoFundMe page, make sure you know where the money is going. I think that that's the takeaway from this.
Case 2161, Shaheen versus Larry. All parties, please step forward.
Jamal Shaheen is suing his neighbor, Sabrina Larry, for car damage after Sabrina hit his vehicle and a house.
Mr. Shaheen, tell me where you live.
I live in Moorhead, Minnesota.
And on September 8th of this year, you parked your relatively new car that, according to you, you got a week before.
No, Your Honor.
I had just purchased a Sequoia a week before.
No, actually, it's not. It's not the new car. I mean, it's a used car, but I purchased it maybe a year before that, not exactly a week.
Okay. So it's not a new car and you didn't purchase it a week before?
No.
But you parked it in front of your house. Do you have a photograph of the car?
I do.
I'd like to see it. And it is your claim that the defendant, Miss Larry, while under some sort of influence of some sort of substance, was driving her car, had an accident, hit your car, and caused it to move 25 feet and it was damaged.
Yes.
And the damage to the car was the rear bumper.
Yep.
Not yep. Yes is the answer.
Yes. Yes,
Yes
you
is
are.
the answer. Okay. Miss Larry, what time did you have your accident?
9 or 10 a.m.
On the 8th?
Yes.
Where were you coming from?
The grocery store.
Where were you going?
Home.
What kind of drugs had you taken?
I was taking Benadryl, prescription medication. That's all I had. That's what I took. And
Can I see the police report? You remember hitting his car?
no.
You remember the police coming to where your car stopped?
No, I don't remember the police coming. Like,
Well, did the police come?
they did, yes.
And you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
Were you taken to a hospital?
I was.
You have the discharge notes from the hospital?
I do.
I'd like to see it. What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a...
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you. What kind of narcotics were found in your car?
They said that they found a round blue pill that had an M30 on it. That's what it stated.
Sarah, do me a favor.
Sure.
Look up under illegal drugs, M30.
So M30s imitate oxycodone obtained from a pharmacy, but when sold on the streets, the pills routinely contain fentanyl.
Look up this name, Percocet. You smoke Percocet? How do you smoke Percocet? That's the only thing you remembered. You didn't remember the accident. Patient remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. That's what they say from your doctor.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The history is provided by the patient. The history is limited by condition of the patient. History is limited because the patient does not remember the actual automobile accident. Remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. You think the doctor made that up? And they just so happen to have found this blue pill in your console in your car?
That's what they are saying.
Okay. You actually know you could have killed yourself. Yeah. Okay. And you don't remember anything about it because that's what you told them. You don't remember anything about anything after you smoked the little blue pill, which is what they said. So your car was moved. That's the damage to your car.
Yeah.
So can I see the estimate for the damage, please?
I think
You gave it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Have you had the car fixed?
Just a back tail light that I had to put it on. I was trying to fix it, but don't have any money to do it.
Sarah, look up, please, would you?
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, it's a 21-year-old car. It's got 226,000 miles on it. How much did you pay for it, sir?
I paid 10.
We're not going to spend 7 to fix it.
But that's how much it costs.
You
Yeah.
find somebody to do it less.
Well, now I am without a car.
You're not without a car, sir. You put on the taillight so that you could drive it. This car is not drivable.
That car was dragged. That back axle, it shakes. I can drive
Between
it
2
in a
and 5,000.
Between 2 and 5,000. You paid too much for the car, sir. You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs and passed out in her car and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. If you can buy the car for $2,000, buy an old 22-year-old car for $2,000. She's not paying you $7,000 to fix a $2,000 car. That's ridiculous. And I'm not stupid. Do we understand each other? Now, between
2,500 and 5,000 based off of a 250,000 mile 2002 Toyota Supra.
So you have to find somebody who's going to fix your car for $3,000, sir. That's $1,000 more than you could buy it for. We're done here. Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
I would remember if I hit a car, and I didn't.
She ran into my car, run into a garage.
I know exactly what I took, and it definitely wasn't narcotics.
That area that I was living in, it's a really bad area. A lot of drugs are going on over there.
I'm very, very lucky. I'm very blessed. Like she said, I could be dead.
Just the audacity of some plaintiffs to come in here with an almost 22-year-old car with 275,000 miles on it. And I looked it up, and I even priced it on the positive end, the private party value, not a trade-in, and so forth. $7,000 he was comfortable asking the court for a car that's not even worth $7,000.
Yeah, he'll buy.
For a back panel.
Buy a new one. He was lying when I said, how much did you pay for the car? $10,000. That's ridiculous. And he just bought it, he said, a year ago. In the papers,
Yeah,
he said he
I
bought
saw
it a
that.
week before. So either it was a week or a year. Not.
Either way, not.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton are suing Mary's brother, Michael Manry, for medical bills and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2117, Forrest Stockton versus Manry.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Manry, this is your sister,
Correct.
and that is her,
Fiance.
and you have a son who is 19.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many other children do you have?
I have 3 altogether.
How old?
One is almost 30, the other one is 18, and then I got the 19-year-old, which one here.
Okay. And your son, who is now 19, is the subject of this case. Who had custody of the children?
I got custody of Dakota now.
When did you get custody of the children?
Only when he was 18 years old.
Do you have those papers, sir?
Yes, I do.
May I see them, please? Okay, so this grants you, sir, legal and physical custody of Dakota Manry until further order of the court. So what this case is about now, and I assume from what I've read, that Dakota has certain special needs.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of his special needs, he is unemployed. Did he finish any sort of a high school?
He graduated.
He graduated from
Yes.
high school?
Yes.
Did he go to a special school?
He went to a regular school, but he was in special education.
And when he graduated, did he graduate when he was living with you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what your case is about. At some point, according to you, you have a niece. And your niece wanted to have Dakota come and stay with her for a couple of days. You were at the time, according to your answer, sort of in between residences. You were evicted from one place and going someplace else?
I was in the process of moving. I got my niece to go with me to, ask her if she'll bring me to go get Dakota by my cousin's house. And she said, sure.
Okay. Dakota went to live for a few days, at least, at your niece's house.
No, not live there. No, not live there. No, ma'am.
Well, he was there overnight.
He was over there overnight.
How many nights was he there overnight?
I think about maybe a week. I was supposed to be
Okay.
3 days.
So he was there.
Yeah.
During that time, you, who are his aunt,
Yes, ma'am.
went to your niece's house and you saw Dakota there.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, became concerned because, according to you, it looked like he hadn't showered in a week.
He was in dirty clothes. He just looked awful.
So you decided to take him to live with you.
I asked him, I said, do you want him to the house to stay, a little while, where he can eat and all that? Because he looked like he hadn't ate either.
Okay. Well, this is what your case is about. You decided to take him, didn't discuss it with his father. During the time he was with you, he had some expenses. You want his father to be responsible for those expenses, and you want his father to return certain of his personal property. That's what the case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First, let me deal with all things legal. I have an order here dated January 21st, 2021, which grants physical and legal custody of Dakota to his father. Do you have any subsequent order granting you custody or guardianship, is my question.
I have power of attorney.
That is not the same thing. Can I see what they have?
Power of attorney when I didn't give her permission. I got custody. Okay.
Okay, this was signed by Dakota, so he's giving you legal power to act on his behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Dakota, by signing this power of attorney, he's saying that I am a whole person, and I give you the right to make medical decisions for me if he can't do them. It's a general power of attorney in case he becomes unable to make decisions on his own. This is an order of custody. You have power of attorney. Power of attorney suggests to me that Dakota wants to emancipate himself from his father, wants someone else to act on his behalf. It becomes a complex question because if Dakota has special needs and if he can't act on his own, and a court has already ruled that his father should have custody of him, either you have a power of attorney and he's emancipated, in which case his father's not responsible for any of his medical bills, or this is invalid because he can't sign a power of attorney because he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand all of the implications of this power of attorney. Now, your nephew was in special classes.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know what the nature of his disabilities are?
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Is that his diagnosis, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
He had, according to you, after you took him from your niece's house, and you do acknowledge you took him without his father's permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We was not talking, me and him.
It doesn't make any sense if you were
And so
talking or not.
I didn't have his number, and I asked Dakota, I said, text your daddy to let him know you're coming with me. Dakota said, and he showed me where he texted Michael. Now, I don't know if it was on a different Facebook page.
No, it's your responsibility to notify his guardian, who has custody, that you have taken physical custody of him.
Right.
And when did you take physical custody of him? Give me the month, day, and year.
May 20th of this year, 2022.
Now, while you had physical custody of Dakota, you indicate that he had surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And part of what you want Mr. Manry to pay for is the ambulance bill. What kind of surgery did he have?
Brain surgery, and he had a feeding tube put in him.
Just a second. What caused you to take him to a hospital or to a doctor?
Your Honor, when he arrived at the house on the 20th, he had very bad slurred speech, and his balance was completely off. He was falling over. Your Honor, it was like he was a drunken man.
Let me go back to you for a second, sir. While Dakota was with you in the months just prior to May, did you notice Dakota having difficulty in his gait?
Not like he was explaining to me, I was going overboard.
No, did you?
But his balance was off, okay.
Did you inquire? Did you take him to the doctor?
I did. I took him, actually, right after I got him.
So you saw that balance was off a while ago?
When I noticed that he had headaches, all right, because his dream, thanks to me, was wrestling. He loves wrestling. I put him in wrestling. I talked to the promoters, and I did that for him. But when I seen every time he got body slammed, and this and that, I had to take him out of it. I got concerned because he was complaining of headaches. So I made him an appointment, and I waited for a referral. Well, when the referral came in, my kid was kidnapped.
So he never actually saw the second doctor?
No.
Okay. Do you have any records?
Well, I couldn't get the records. I tried to get them.
Once someone went wrong, my kid died doing surgery. I couldn't even be there for him and all that. Anything could have happened.
Just a second. I'm following you, sir. Now, when did you take him for this brain surgery?
I took him the first week of June. I took him to do a CAT scan. And as soon as she did that, we went to the hospital. We didn't leave the hospital. They put him in the ER. And from the ER, we went to Florence, Alabama. And then the surgeons there couldn't do it because it was so big.
What was so big?
Your Honor,
brain.
they found a mass the size of a grapefruit. The first week, Dakota came to stay with us after we noticed the balance issues and the slurred speech. She took him to Dr. who diagnosed him with being severely malnutritioned. Your Honor, when he came to my house, his
liar.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your Honor, sorry. My apologies.
His leg was no bigger around than my wrist.
I got it. Mr. Manry, everything has to be put in perspective. You had a lot of things going on. And if Mr. Stockton's reporting to me is accurate, even though there might be some bad feeling of the way your sister and her fiancé took physical custody of Dakota, you really have to be in a position to say thank you to them, because you, for whatever reason, not for lack of trying, nobody is suggesting for lack of trying, you did try to take him to a doctor, you did see that there were things wrong with him. I understand that it's not always that easy to get the right specialist to get involved in this kind of surgery, but you really have to take a breath. Yeah. And I assume it's accurate, because I cannot assume that anybody would perform brain surgery on a child that was not necessary. That
okay, why she couldn't call me?
She should. Just a second. Just a second. Your sister should have called you and told you that Dakota was going into the hospital to have surgery. That would have been the nice thing to do. Did you do that?
She did.
No, she did not.
She called.
I called my mother.
Well, calling your mother.
His phone was disconnected. I did not have the new number until he called me or texted me with a bunch of drama. That's when I got his
took
number.
My kid from me. You kidnapped my son no matter what.
Mr. Manry, what I want you to do is just take a breath for a moment.
Yes, ma'am. Dakota kept texting me, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and
No, so far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton claim Mary's brother, Michael Manry, owes for medical bills and personal belongings. Michael is countersuing, saying they illegally took his son from his custody.
Mr. Manry, Dakota was only at your niece's house for a short while. You already told me that when he came to you, his gate was off. So right before he went to stay for a couple of days at your niece's house, was his speech slurring?
No, he always had a speech impairment because of the disability, but his speech was not slurred at all. That is a lie. Him having the skinny arms and all, that's all
Okay,
lie.
I'm not talking about skinny arms. I'm talking about his slurred speech. What I was saying to you, Mr. Manry, is that I don't think there are any bad guys here. I don't think that you're a bad guy. And I don't think that your sister and her fiancé meant any harm when they saw a situation that they thought was dangerous. And as it turned out, they were able to get him seriously needed medical care. That doesn't mean it was all done right. But what you're asking for is to be compensated by the defendant for the cost of the ambulance bill that you incurred. Now, this power of attorney was signed by Dakota, if in fact he had capacity to sign this power of attorney. It was done 2 weeks after his first surgery. So up until that time, even if I could construe this as a valid document, his father had legal and physical custody of Dakota. And I assume that's because he had special needs and is unable to live on his own. Is your son able to live on his own?
No, he never will.
Okay, so that's what I assume as a result of this order. If you want this order changed, you have to go back to the court in Mississippi. You have to be declared his guardian.
Your Honor, we did not want to be declared his guardian. The reason the POA came about to start with, during the entire surgical...
Your Honor, can I say something?
The father was aware of it. So was the mother. The mother was actually present at most all of the appointments.
It doesn't matter. The mother doesn't have custody, legal or physical.
We were under the impression, and were told she did, that he only had a temporary custody. So she showed up to say she had to sign all the documents. She was going to do this. She was going to do this. She was going to do this.
Did she sign the documents?
She signed some. Then under social services directions, Mary was informed she should go after a power of attorney. It was discussed with both Dakota and her.
It may be. That's not a lawyer. That's bad advice. Now, just before I get to the issue of clothing, property, whatever he has that's at your house, and where it should go from here, your first stop is to go back to the court in Mississippi that issued this order.
Yes, ma'am.
And say to them, I need Dakota's law guardian. He'll be appointed a guardian for himself, independent of you, and they will interview him and they will do certain evaluations of him and determine where it is that he wants to live. But you have to do that in court. You can't do that ad hoc because you relied on his mother's statements that she had the authority to sign off on these things. She did not until this is changed. And if you want to change it, you are free to go in and try. And then Dakota will be interviewed and seen by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and he'll have a medical evaluation and determine whether or not he is a person who actually requires guardianship. And if he requires guardianship, you can petition for that, and you'll have a trial. This is not that trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Dakota have Medicare?
Medicaid.
He had Medicaid.
That would pay for the ambulance ride.
Yeah, I just want to know if he had Medicaid. He did.
I did give them the Medicaid number, and they keep sending me a bill, and I called them, and they said because it's a different state, it's not covered.
It doesn't matter. Tell them to send their bills to his father. Tell them that you do not have custody or guardianship of this child. His father has custody, guardianship, and this bill is not yours.
The bill is going to Dakota. They're going after Dakota for it. his Medicaid didn't pay for it.
They may be going after Dakota for it. They will be very smart seeking payment from people who can pay them, which is his parents. Right now, you're not legally responsible to pay for his ambulance bill. The only person who might be legally responsible for it is his father, and that will be up to the ambulance company to do. This is not your responsibility at all. So discount the ambulance bill. Next to Dakota's things, you want property that he has in his father's house. So let me go back to you with regard to my statement to you 4 minutes ago. You have to have this custody order modified. You have to go back to the same court that issued a legal and physical custody order of Dakota to his father and say, we would like guardianship of him. He wants to stay with us. He's 19 years old. He will be interviewed. He'll be analyzed. And if at the end of the day you get guardianship of Dakota, then his father may or may not turn over whatever property he has. Dakota's never worked. So whatever property he has was either purchased or given to him by either his mother or his father or other relatives.
A lot of it was his mom that paid for the stuff.
I don't know that.
No, the bottom line is why all this balls down through yonder.
So far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about. You're not losing. You're not losing. What I'm telling the plaintiffs is that if they think that they can provide a more pleasant, stable environment for Dakota, they have the right to petition for guardianship of him. Now, it would be in Dakota's best interest long-term if he were to have contact with both his mother and his father. Contact. I'm not saying live with. Mother, father, and his aunt, and his soon-to-be uncle, as soon as you make up your mind and give her a ring. It's in his best interest. He needs the largest community that he can.
I agree.
Okay, we're going to stop throwing barbs because that only serves to inflame already raw emotions. I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that.
Mary Favre and Jason Starkton have accused Mary's brother, Michael Manry, of owing for an ambulance bill. Michael claims Mary and Jason took his son without his permission.
What I'm telling you is a very simple procedural thing where you have to go. You can't sue him for the return of Dakota's things unless you have guardianship of Dakota.
Understood.
Because he already is the subject of a recent order of custody from a court. That's what you have to have. You can take that bill from the ambulance service, put it in an envelope, we'll get you the address, and that's where that goes. That's his father, who is his legal parent under this order. So send that bill to them so you don't have to worry about that bill. As far as his property is concerned, that has to go along with an order of custody or guardianship, and that's something that you should do. But, Mr. Manry, I am not making a decision with regard to his custody or not. What I'm asking you is, until a court reviews whatever orders they're going to make with regard to custody and guardianship, first, I know you may be angry, but they probably saved his life by getting him to the doctor that they did. And if they removed a massive tumor from his brain, you should say, thank you for doing that, because it was a month after he was living with you. Someone else took your son and saved his life. And for that, at least, you have to be grateful. You can be angry. You can be angry that you didn't get it done before. You can be angry that somebody else did it without consulting you. You can be angry at all of those things. But at the same time, you have to feel grateful that it was done.
There wasn't no reason they kidnapped my son.
Okay. Mr. Manry, you keep going back to the same song.
I was worried about
You keep going back to the same song. And what I'm saying to you is, their next stop, if Dakota wants to live with them, and he's right now over 19 years old, is to the court who issued the order to modify that order. All I'm saying to you is, I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted or didn't participate in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that. What I'm telling you is you have to love your child more than you, at this moment, dislike your sister and her fiance, because they were able to take control of a situation and get your child fixed. So is Dakota, just for my own, is Dakota angry with his father?
He's angry that his father won't return any of his wrestling. He is correct. He is a huge wrestling fanatic.
Okay. What particularly does he want? He wants his wrestling?
He wants his wrestling belts. They have replica belts that were made. He wanted his PlayStation 4 and the wrestling game.
PlayStation 4, I'm not interested in that. He wants his wrestling belts.
Yes, ma'am.
Donna, can I show you something right quick on my phone? Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, it changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and Jason.
What I'm telling you, Mr. Manry, that's for another court and another day. When Dakota has a lawyer, you may have a lawyer to modify this custody order. Right now, he would like his wrestling belts.
Oh, I want my son to come home.
Okay, then I strongly urge you to go to the court, file a petition against them for custodial interference, or you go to court and file an application for guardianship of Dakota, which is a much more positive thing to do, and let a court that has the social work services, the psychiatric services, evaluate Dakota and figure out in whose best interests are we supposed to place faith. And I think if he is a thinking young man, and you told me that he is because he wants these things that are important to him, he should be able to have a say with whom he lives. Now, you have my ruling. Your next stop, folks, is to modify the order of the court in Mississippi that gave his father custody, physical and legal custody of him. You have to petition for guardianship. That's your next step. So, in that regard, your case is dismissed. Send the ambulance bill to his father.
I got a countersuit.
We're done.
Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it, sir.
Okay. I did everything I can for my kids, and
My brother, he said nothing but lies.
when somebody takes your kid without your permission,
But, you know, that's him. I mean, that's what he does.
you don't know where they're at, and you're going crazy because you don't know where your kid's at, that's kidnapping.
I should get a thank you out of it, but he's not going to do that.
I want my son to come home to his daddy because I love him very much. That's my son.
It's about him. It's not about her. It's not about her and her brother. It's not about me and her brother.
My son, I love him. I'd do anything in the world for him.
It's about Dakota.
So you didn't listen to the defendant's counterclaim back there for emotional distress for, I believe it was $3,500. I would have given that to him. I don't think anyone was acting maliciously in this case. Like you said to the father, he should be grateful that his son is alive and his sister took action when he might have been stumbling a little bit. But that's what that cause of action is for, when someone takes an action that was legally incorrect. And here, the plaintiffs had no legal right to take him to get that surgery. I agree that he should have had it and it all came from a good place. However, when you take an action that causes somebody else such severe emotional distress, and I would consider taking someone else's child in for the riskiest surgery that probably exists, qualifies as causing some severe emotional distress. So I probably would have awarded him that if I was ruling.
Well, so let me give you the reason that I didn't bother to hear it. Mm-hmm. I think the aunt and her fiance had nothing but pure motives in taking this 19-year-old who they say appeared to be malnourished and they say was diagnosed as being malnourished, which is possible, and it's possible that it was all related to this brain tumor that he clearly had that was impairing his stability, and he was with his father for a year while this tumor was growing. I don't think that they had malicious intent.
Neither do I.
And I think that but for their actions, this 19-year-old boy probably would be dead. If they took out the tumor that was the size of a grapefruit, I would say 6 months later or 8 months later, there's a strong probability that would affect the optic nerve, affect the carotid artery, and gone. So although I could understand his annoyance, from the time they went to live with him until his surgery was a month. And I actually don't believe that this father didn't know where he was for a month, because they evidently have a living mother who they're both in touch with. He was moving around, phone disconnected. At the hospital, the mother showed up. She said, I can sign the documents. Well, you know, you're involved in major surgery for a child. Your focus is not on your brother, who did not take care of business for a year. So I'm going to leave that up to a family court judge to determine who should have custody, and I probably guarantee you that custody will remain with his aunt because that's what Dakota wants. Father may be angry, but that's what's going to happen. I have no doubt that the father loves him. He did not take good care of him for the year.
Sure.
And so I wasn't going to reward that by giving him any money against these people who had nothing but the child's best interest, when for a year he really didn't take care of business with his son. And that's why I didn't hear his case for emotional distress.
Understood.
Suing his former roommate, Nigel Pine, and her boyfriend, Gallo June, for property damage and stolen belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2121, GN versus Pine Jagoon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gwillan, you rented a room in a house that you were renting or that you own?
That I was renting.
It's a 3-bedroom house, and you live there with whom?
At the time, it was me and my sister, and then my cousin.
How long have you been living in that house?
I was living there previously with my sister for about 5 years, and then she then moved, and then it came over to me in 2020.
So you've been living there for 7 years?
About 5 years, yeah.
When did you decide to rent a room?
She came to me around early May, saying that she was going through a situation with her previous roommate.
That would be you.
Sorry, Nigel, yeah. Sorry about that.
How did you know her?
We worked together as servers. But then she came to me on the job saying that she heard that I had a room available and that she was going through it with some of her previous roommates before. She said she needed some place to stay, so I told her that she could stay with me until she got on her feet.
Is that the conversation?
No.
Okay, so let me hear your version of the conversation.
So someone did tell me he was renting a room. I did need a room for rent. As we all know, COVID did happen, so I wasn't in my place I had stayed previously. I was moving. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I heard you had a room for rent. He's like, yeah, girl. And I'm like, yeah. So I could pay, I can move in now, basically. Because I came to him May 31st, moved in June 1st, which was the next day. And he was like, yeah, girl, just pay $800 a month. Just give me $1,000 to move in. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. I'm like, all right, for sure. It's like, it'll be month to month. And that was it. It was never till you get back on your feet. It was never like a helping hand. I paid to move in with him.
He never said it was a helping hand.
Well, he did just state that I was going to be staying there, so I got back on my feet, which was never the case. I was staying there.
But you needed a room.
Yes.
Okay. And the rent was $800 a month.
Yes.
And he asked you for $1,000 up front as security.
Yes.
And when did she move in?
She moved in on May 30th, Your Honor.
When did she pay you for June's rent?
Immediately. So the day that she moved in is when she gave me the money.
So she paid June's rent?
Yeah, she did pay June's rent, yes.
And what about July?
She paid for July's rent as well, yeah.
And what about August?
She did pay for August rent, but she does owe me for utilities. She's about 2 months backed up on utilities.
What about September?
We weren't there for September because the altercation already occurred on August 27th and 28th.
Okay, so she was there for 3 months and she paid you for 3 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is that there was an altercation, and at some point during her tenancy, she brought in her boyfriend who's going to uncross his arms.
Yes.
Who was living with her.
Mm-hmm.
And when was that?
So she told me previously to her moving in that she did have a boyfriend and that he would be there from time to time. I allowed it. During his stay and while they were there, they were always arguing. It was like commotion, like every other night. He would punch holes in the wall. They would constantly get into fights. So what happened to how this whole thing got about, one day I had came home and I actually have the messages here.
Those are the messages you had on your phone?
Yeah, between me and her, man, yeah.
Okay, may I see
So
those?
he was
May I see
standing
them,
outside
please?
of the building. I came home around.
Just a second. I have to read them first.
Yeah.
I don't understand what this is.
So I was pulling up to my house around 7 a.m. in the morning. He was outside sitting on the steps crying and smoking a blunt. He walked up to my car asking if we can have a conversation. I said, sure. He gets in my car. We're talking. He tells me that him and Nigel just got into a fight. Nigel kicked him out again.
He and his girlfriend got
Yeah,
into
he and his girlfriend, Nigel, had gotten into a fight.
This was on August 27th.
Yes, August 22nd, yeah. So we had the conversation. He told me that Nigel...
What were you doing look at me. What were you doing out at 7:30 in the morning?
So me...
No, just...
Me and Nigel, like the night previously, we had went out together. We got in pretty late. We were out drinking. We did get into a situation, but it wasn't a situation...
I just want to know what you were doing out 7:30 in the morning. That's my question.
I was just leaving and walking to my car.
Did you have a conversation with Mr.
We had a brief 2 to 3 minute conversation.
Okay, but you had a conversation with him. Now, you had an argument with your girlfriend the night before, you just said. What kind of an argument did you have with her?
It was basically, we went out, we were trying to have a good time together. It didn't really kind of end up the night how I wanted it to go. She felt how she felt. It was never an argument of, yelling at her or like we were going at it. It was just like...
Well, you had been out drinking.
Yeah.
And when you were out drinking the night before, did you have any altercation with your girlfriend while you were out?
No.
So you had the altercation with her in the house?
Yes, in the apartment.
Okay. Now, he works nights? What were you doing?
Nights and days, yeah. I'm a server bartender, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, he wasn't home when you were having these fights with this argument
Not
with
a
your girlfriend?
fight, not even an argument, but no, ma'am, he was
He
home.
was not at home. And when he came home that morning, you were outside?
I was walking to my car.
He was outside on the steps crying.
I wasn't
Just a
on
second.
the steps.
Sorry.
Wasn't on the steps.
Just a
Didn't
second.
even have a
Sorry.
You have to understand, I move slowly but methodically.
Got you. Sorry, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, do you work?
Yes, I do.
Where?
Security.
Security for whom?
I lied.
What time do you report to work on the 27th?
On the 27th, I went to work late because of the situation that had happened previously that day with the cops, and we have the text messages of me texting my supervisor.
What situation previously that day? He wasn't home. So what situation previously that day?
What happened previously that day was that
Previously what day?
earlier during the day, he had...
That was 7:30 in the morning. You hadn't seen him.
I'm having
It wasn't the 27th.
That wasn't the 27th when that happened.
Was
We
it
had
the
the
22nd?
conversation on the 26th. Early coming back, it was 7 that day because we had got into it. I didn't see her at all. After me and her had our little falling out, I'm walking to my car. We have the conversation. I go home.
You went home for what?
He said that I was living with her. I was never living with her.
You were.
You went home for what at 7:30 in the morning? What did you go home for?
To sleep.
To sleep. So what you're saying is it wasn't on the 27th, it was the 26th.
This altercation that happened with me on the steps, it either was the 26th or the 25th, but this happened way prior before the day on the 27th. The 27th is the day where the first police incident happened, where there was the actual dispute over him and her. He said that she didn't pay the first month's rent, which we have in the police report.
Okay, I've already determined all the rent was paid.
Right, but he has the dates wrong because the 27th is not the day that we got into the altercation.
What was the date?
It was the 22nd.
It was the 22nd.
2nd of August, 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm off Mondays and Tuesdays, so I was off. I went home to sleep after I left the apartment.
So on the 22nd, Your Honor.
On the 22?
Yeah, on the 22, which is a Monday morning at 7:30, I pulled into my garage. He was outside crying.
So it wasn't on the 27th?
No, it was on the 22nd, yeah. 22nd in the morning, yes, ma'am. It was 7:30 in the morning. He's sitting there crying. I come in. He asks, can he come in my car to talk to me? We talk. He tells me that him and Nigel got into another altercation. She hits him. He stops her from doing what she wants to do. He said that Nigel expressed that she's talking to other people and that she just wants him to leave her alone. He then asked me, do I know about her dealing with any men or anything? I tell him I've only seen her with one guy. It was some light-skinned dude who she went to the bowling alley with. But other than that, I didn't see anything. I told him, with me being 25 and him being 20, I said, you're a young man. You have your own car. You got a place. You're doing stuff. You should be living life. You shouldn't be, getting beat or dealing with all this stuff. Just be young and live your life, That's when he then...
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have that sort of a conversation with him?
Not at all.
Okay, tell me what...
The conversation was 2 to 3 minutes. I never entered his car. I was walking out.
No, tell me what you said to him.
I told him that me and her got into it. You might not see me around here. I don't know what the situation is. And he did tell me, focus on yourself. Y'all will be good.
Okay, so it's pretty much, so whatever. That was a discussion. You had a fight with her on the 22nd, and there was registering some complaint. Mm-hmm. Sir, if you say you might not see me around here, we had an argument, there was registering some sort of a complaint. You didn't leave there happy on the 22nd.
Yes.
Is it... Right? You didn't leave there happy.
I never was upset, like how he's trying to make it seem. We didn't have this conversation of me being beat on or me crying.
You didn't leave... Mr. Jim, you didn't leave there happy that morning.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
You had an altercation with her the night before or earlier, and you stopped and had a brief conversation with him. I don't have to get into the nuances of it. You weren't happy. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the 27th, and you say you told him you're a young guy. You don't have to...
live your life, yeah.
Live your life.
And then he thanks me in those messages that I gave you right
Okay. Would you tell me what you know with regard to the vandalism?
Once I opened the door, I seen shattered glass all over the floor. His room was completely vandalized. There was a knife in the wall.
Can you explain these photographs to me?
I can't explain the photographs. I didn't do it.
Carlos Guillen claims his former roommates, Nija Pine, and her boyfriend, Gallo June, vandalized his property. Nija is countersuing for a false arrest, tire damage, and cyberbullying.
Now, 22nd moves into the 23rd, 24th. Anything happens 23rd, 24th, 25th?
On the 26th, I had got a phone call from one of my friends saying that Nija, at the place that we were working at, was going around telling people that I was trying to sleep with her boyfriend, saying that I'm trying to make him gay and that I go for straight men.
Just a second.
All this stuff.
Just a second. That's all hearsay, by the way, unless you have a witness to that.
Yes.
And I assume that you could have a witness to that if you like. Did you, Ms. Pine, have any conversation at work with any of your colleagues about discussions that the plaintiff may have had with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Do you remember who?
It's actually another coworker.
Coworker.
A mutual friend between us.
Okay. And without going into the text of the conversation, were you registering complaints about Mr. Guillen?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor.
That's all. That's all that's
So
relevant.
with that being said, that following morning on the 27th, I then walked up to her room around 8 o'clock because, you know, she's living in my house. I'm helping her out. She's talking about me at my place of business. So I went up there to go ask her, you know, what's going on, what's happening. The moment I go up there, she's like, you're this and this and this. We start arguing at this point. Like, we're both yelling at each other. It's getting heated. She then tells me that she's going to have some dudes come and beat me up since I want to argue with a girl and all this stuff. Men then come to my home. 6 dudes come to my house.
How much later after the conversation?
This is probably like literally 10 minutes after the conversation. Like, this was very fast. She had these men come to my house. I saw one of the dudes outside. I was trying to, you know, go outside and just be like, look, I'm not trying to do anything to her. We got into an argument. I'm hearing stuff. Gallo, out of nowhere, comes from a corner and tries to swing at me. Once he does that, I then go inside my house, I go into my room, and I look at my window, and it's 6 men outside my home. She then lets these men inside the house. They're banging on my door, talk about bring your outside and all this stuff. Oh, you want to fight women, da-da-da-da. All this mess, banging on my door and stuff.
Was anyone else in the house other than the two of them?
It was my cousin with me at the time.
That's not your cousin.
No, this is my witness, Imani. It was my cousin at the time.
A witness to what?
A witness to the next day, Your Honor. But back with this day, my cousin was with me. He wanted to go out and fight and do it. I said, no, we're going to sit here and wait. The police end up getting called from the neighbors because it's 6 men outside banging and cussing and making a scene. The police then get there. There was an officer who, I don't know if she already knew previously or who she was cool with, but the officer said that because I'm a 6'8" man and she is a woman, she feels intimidated by me and all this stuff. So he told me that the men who were there is allowed to stay there because she is a tenant there and that's her place, so they're considered her guest. Once that was said, Your Honor, I immediately got everything that I could and I booked a hotel at the Westin. I stayed there at the Westin for 9 days. That day, she was going around on social media saying that I was scary and that I ran in my room and that I called the cops, just basically talking smack about me on the gram. Hold on, Your Honor, I'm trying to find it.
If I may interject, if I may.
Not yet.
All right.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. But she went on social media. It's
Okay,
like,
just a second. So what you're telling me, you don't have that unless
It might
it's
be in that file, yeah, sorry. But it's like a message of her saying like, oh, y'all won't believe who caught the police and ran in the room crying and like just talking smack, Your Honor.
Okay, here it goes.
Yeah, that's what she posted. Once she posted that and, you know, people start hitting me up.
I see it.
Yeah. Once she started posting that, people started hitting me up. They're like, what's going on, and this and this.
अस्सलामुअलैकुम दोस्तों, उम्मीद है कि आप सब खैरियत से होंगे। आज एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट बात है जो मैं आपके साथ शेयर करने जा रहा हूं। हमारे साथ जो काम करने वाले एक बंगाली भाई हैं, बंगाली एक नहीं है, 11 लड़के आए थे जिनमें से 10 लड़के जो से हैं वो फ़रार हो चुके हैं। ये क्या मामला हुआ, कैसे हुआ, और मैं ये आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहता हूँ। ये ऐसा हुआ कि एक कफ़ील ने 10 वीज़े दिए एक एजेंट को कि ये यार ये मुझे ये वीज़े हैं, तो ये अपने उधर से लड़के हमारे ना अपने बांग्लादेश से लड़के बुलवाओ इधर काम करने के लिए। क्या पैकेज है, क्या कुछ था, वो आपस में उन्होंने डिसाइड किया, जैसे भी था उसने वीज़े सेल किए, लड़कों को बुलाया। آگے ایجنٹ نے یہاں کا جو ایجنٹ تھا سعودی عرب کا, اس نے آگے سے لڑکوں کو ریسیو کیا, ریسیو کرنے کے بعد کفیل کو کال کیا کہ بھائی لڑکے آ چکے ہیں, بتاؤ آپ کی رہائش کدھر ہے, لوکیشن مجھے بھیجو تو میں ان لڑکوں کو جو لے کے نا یہاں پر آتا ہوں آپ کی رہائش پر. تو کفیل نے آگے سے کہا کہ بھائی آپ ایسا کرو, ان کو ابھی فی الحال کہیں رہائش پر رکھو, ٹھیک ہے, تو میں آپ کو بعد میں کال کرتا ہوں, لوکیشن سینڈ کروں گا, تو پھر آپ ان کو لے کر یہاں پر آ جانا. اچھا, کفیل نے اس کے بعد اس آدمی سے کوئی رابطہ نہیں کیا, کوئی بات نہیں کی, اور وہ انسان جو ایجنٹ تھا وہ کوشش کرتا رہا کہ یار میں کیسے بھی کر کے ان کو ان کے پاس بھیجوں. کفیل نے نمبر نہیں اٹھا رہا تھا, نمبر بلیک لسٹ کیا تھا یا بند کیا تھا, واللہ علم جو بھی معاملہ تھا. وہ 1 سے 1.5 ماہ تک جو سا نا وہ ایجنٹ کے انڈر میں رہے لڑکے, ٹھیک ہے. وہ ٹرائی کرتا رہا, نمبر جیسے بھی تھا وہ بات چیت کرتا رہا کہ کسی نہ کسی طریقے سے مجھے نمبر کفیل کا مل جائے, کوئی اور نیا نمبر جس سے میں رابطہ کر. آخر تک وہ ایجنٹ جو سا نا اس مقصد میں کامیاب ہو گیا, کفیل سے بات ہوئی. وہ بھی 1.5 ماہ بعد وہ ایجنٹ نے خود اپنی جیب سے جو خرچہ کیا ہے بنگالیوں پر, بنگلہ دیش کے جو لڑکے آئے تھے ان پر خرچہ کیا, ٹھیک ہے. تو اس کے بعد اس نے لوکیشن سینڈ کی ہے, اس کو یہ کہا کہ بھائی اس جگہ پر وہ لڑکوں کو بھیج دو, ٹھیک ہے. وہ ایجنٹ خود آیا ساتھ, اس کے آنے کے بعد اس نے وہ 10 لڑکوں کو وہاں پر بٹھایا, سمجھایا, جج کیا کہ بھائی ادھر یہ آپ کا کفیل ہے, آپ نے ان لڑکوں کے یہ کفیل کے ساتھ کام کرنا ہے. کفیل کو کہا بھائی یہ لڑکے ہیں, یہ میں ادھر ان کو چھوڑ کے جا رہا ہوں, ٹھیک ہے. جب وہ لڑکے آئے, ان سے بات کی گئی, بات ہوئی, تو ہمیں تو یہ معلوم تھا کہ یہ ابھی آئے ہیں, نئے لڑکے ہیں. ہم نے ان کو جب بتانا چاہا, کچھ باتیں شیئر کی, تو انہوں نے کہا کہ بھئی ہمیں 1.5 ماہ ہو چکا, ہم یہاں پر سعودی عرب میں آئے ہوئے ہیں, پر آگے سے کفیل میں کوئی رابطہ نہیں ہوا, تو ہم ایجنٹ کے ساتھ ہی رہ رہے تھے, ٹھیک ہے. تو جو بھی خرچہ تھا وہ ہمیں ایجنٹ دیتا تھا, ایجنٹ کے ہمیں ادھر رہائش جو تھی وہ اس نے ہمیں لے کے دی ہے, تو ہم نے وہاں پر گزر بسر کیا اپنا, ٹھیک ہے, جو بھی تھا معاملہ تھے. تو اس کے بعد کیا ہوا کہ وہ ہفتہ 1.5 ہفتہ یا 2 ہفتے میکسیمم رہائش میں رہے ہیں. انہوں نے سارا جو ایک نظام تھا دیکھا کہ بھئی یہاں پر کیا سسٹم چل رہا ہے, کیا ترتیب ہے, لڑکے کیا کر رہے ہیں, کیا نہیں کر رہے, کفیل کیسا ہے. تو انہوں نے ایک مائنڈ بنا لیا کہ ہم نے اب یہاں سے بھاگنا ہے, یہاں پر تو بہت ہی ایک بدترین نظام ہے. اب یوں سمجھ لیں کہ کفیل اچھا نہیں ہے, برتاؤ اچھا نہیں کر رہا, ہم بھوکے مر رہے ہیں, ہمیں کھانے کے لیے پیسے نہیں دے رہا. تو لڑکے سب سو رہے تھے, تو انہوں نے کیا کیا, چپکے سے اپنا سامان باندھا اور باہر نکلے گیٹ سے, ٹیکسی ڈھونڈی اور ان کو ٹیکسی میں بیٹھے, 2 ٹیکسی کروائیں, بیٹھے اور نکل گئے. جب صبح لڑکے اٹھے دیکھا تو ان کے جو بیڈ تھے وہ خالی تھے, اور لڑکے جو سے تھے وہ بھاگ چکے تھے. ان میں سے جو ایک بنگالی تھا وہ نہیں بھاگا, کیونکہ اس کی کچھ ایسی مجبوریاں, کچھ معاملہ تھی. اس نے کہا کہ بھئی میں نہیں جاؤں گا, میں آیا ہوں ادھر کام کرنے کے لیے, میری یہ مجبوری ہے, تو میں نہیں بھاگ سکتا. اگر میں بھاگتا ہوں بالفرض تو کفیل مجھ پر کوئی بھی ایک جرم عائد کر دیتا ہے, یا مجھ پر کوئی گرامہ یا کوئی جرمانہ ڈال دیتا ہے, جس وجہ سے میں یہاں پر مستقل کے لیے پابند ہو جاؤں, تو یہ میں نہیں چاہتا, ٹھیک ہے. تو وہ ایک جو سا تھا وہ یہاں پر ہی ہے, باقی بھاگ گئے ہیں. نمبر انہوں نے بند کر دیا, پاسورڈ ان کے پاس ہے, اقامے ان کے بن چکے ہیں. ان میں سے کچھ لڑکوں کے لائسنس جو سے ہیں وہ بن گئے, اور کچھ کے ابھی تک نہیں بنے. تو اسی طرح کہنے کا مقصد یہ ہے کہ یہاں پر جو کفیلی نظام ہے نا وہ ایسا ہے کہ جن کو اچھے کفیل مل جائیں تو ان کی زندگی سنور جاتی, جن کو نہیں ملتے اچھے, بس وہ بے شک یہاں پر آپ 18 سال لگا لیں, 10 سال بھی لگا لیں نا, تو ان کا کچھ بھی نہیں بنتا, ٹھیک ہے. تو ہمارے ساتھ جو ایک بنگالی بھائی ہیں وہ ابھی میرے ساتھ ہی ہیں, تو میں ان سے ایک جو ہمارا دوسرا پارٹ ہے اس میں آپ کی بات چیت کرواتا ہوں, کیا معاملات ہے, وہ کیوں نہیں بھاگے, ٹھیک ہے, تو اس کی کیا مجبوری تھی, تو انہوں نے کیا سوچا ہے یہاں پر آ کر, کیا معاملہ تھا, وہ انشاءاللہ ہم آپ کو بتاتے ہیں اگلی ویڈیو میں. تو پھر ملتے ہیں اگلی ویڈیو میں. اللہ حافظ.